All right, what's going on, everybody? Let's talk about the Las Vegas race here for the NASCAR Cup Series. We got the round of 8 kicking off in the playoffs, so it's a great opportunity if you are a playoff driver to win and punch your ticket to the Championship 4 race. So that's what all these guys are going to go out there to try to do, get to Phoenix, and hopefully just they can relax for the next couple of weeks. But for DFS purposes, it's an intermediate track. We're going back to a 1.5 mile. I did run here earlier in the year. We have some other intermediate tracks to look at as far as data points, in addition to, have they practiced and qualified this weekend. So looking at the slate, we got Larson, Hamlin, Byron, Reddick, and Truex. Pretty interesting, in the top range here. For me, my main focus is going to be Larson, Byron, and Reddick. I've definitely want at least one of these drivers in my lines, potentially two. I think the way that you're going to build today is probably a 2 dominator lineup, potentially maybe a 3 dominator lineup. Maybe you could go 1 dominator and some place differential plays that come through. So there's, if you feel really good about one player or one driver, maybe you plug them in. But for me, I'm probably going to be looking at targeting a 2 dominator type of lineup. Larson and Byron are pretty similar. So if you look at their practice times, Larson does start on the front row, looks to have, one of the cars to beat. I think both Larson, Byron, and Reddick likely are to get by Christopher Bell early in this race. So that's why I have Bell as low, even though he does start on the pole. So really like Larson, really like Byron. Both of them have been just really good at the intermediate tracks all year long. There isn't really too much else to say about them at this point in the season. You kind of know, they're going to be fast and they unloaded fast, and they showed that speed in practice and qualifying. So not really going to overthink it there. I'm going to have a lot of Larson. I'm going to have a lot of Byron. And then Reddick's probably going to be my, of those 3 drivers, Reddick would probably be my 3rd highest owned, driver in the top range there. I just think Larson and Byron have a little bit of a stronger car. I'm going to lean on Hendrick Motorsports a little bit more, but I still like Reddick a lot there too. Hamlin is tough. Historically speaking, look at the intermediate data. It says, Hamlin's going to be a great play. Looking at the data for this specific weekend at Las Vegas, he struggled a little bit. I mean, he still has a fast car, but relatively speaking to the other cars up here in this range, if you're playing Hamlin, you're sacrificing a Byron or Reddick, in your line, which, might be fine if the other, driver that you land on goes out there and leads, a good chunk of the race. Truex, I want to hammer Truex. I want to go back to him. It's just recent form as of late. He has not been good. Looking at his data, it's good. Especially at intermediates, it suggests that like Hamlin, he's going to be a really good play. Qualified really well, so that's encouraging to see. His practice times were decent. I just don't know if he has a better car than Larson, Byron, or Reddick today. So for those reasons, Larson, Byron, and Reddick are going to be my main focuses there. Getting down to the 9K range here, you got Bell, Blaney, Kyle Busch, Chase Elliott, and Christopher Buescher there. Now, Chase Elliott did wreck in practice. He's going to start from the rear. Because of that, he's also going to a backup car. So it's pretty fast before that happened. I'm pretty confident they'll be able to, get the backup car reasonably, set up to the primary car that he had. Gives you a lot of place differential upside, and he's only $9,200. So it's really easy to pair him, with a potentially 1 or 2 of those, plays that we mentioned there from the top range. Christopher Bell, talked about him a little bit. It seems like he always gets the pole just for whatever reason. It just does not get the results. Usually it's his team struggling on pit road or, losing him spots, or maybe just how the race is playing out. With the drivers that are starting around Christopher Bell, I'm just hesitant to have him start first because he's not going to give you any place differential upside. And my fear is he's going to get lapped or passed, I should say, early in the race too. So I fear his dominator upside is a little limited as well. And I know he's going to get some ownership. Not really getting to Blaney or Busch. Blaney's probably going to run around where he starts. Busch, I just don't see him really getting through the field like I do with some of the other drivers. I'd much rather play Christopher Buescher if I am going to play anyone in this range outside of Chase Elliott. He's still in the playoffs. Had really good practice times, backed it up in qualifying. I'd say the intermediates usually aren't Ford in general or like RFK's strong suit by any means, but with the momentum that this team has, starting fifth for $9,000, I don't mind him as a tournament option. Logano, Wallace, Keselowski, Chastain, and Harvick. Two favorite plays in this range, it could be Chastain and Keselowski. Chastain was the fastest in practice, gives you a little bit of place differential up there, starting 10th, and he's only $8,300. So that's encouraging to see. And then Keselowski, I went back and forth between medium and high. I ultimately, bumped him up to high because I just felt like I had to get a couple more drivers on the sheet here, up to high interest. So Keselowski squeaks in for me at high, gives you some place differential upside. He's a lot cheaper than Chase Elliott. He's not going to carry nearly as amount of ownership as Chase Elliott. Does he have the same amount of upside? No, but he's a little bit cheaper. And if you look at his finishes at some of the most recent intermediate tracks too, a lot of them have been, if not inside the top 10, very close to the top 10. So, that's encouraging. And hopefully that team can figure it out. Bubba Wallace, I think, is a great GPP option. He's a lot cheaper than Reddick. Reddick had faster practice times, but Wallace's wasn't too far off. So he's kind of like a Christopher Buescher play to me. Like, I think he just gives you a lot of value. Someone that's going to be inside the top, 8, top 10 all day long. Probably is going to pick you up some fast laps. And who knows, if he can get out front, lead you some laps, that's going to be a driver you're going to want in your line. So Buescher and Wallace are similar plays to me. Both of them are going to be a little bit more GPP options, but definitely going to have ownership. Logano, I'm just not really getting to like Blaney. I just think he kind of runs around where he starts. And then Harvick looks like a good place differential play there. But his practice times were in the 20s. He qualified in the 20s. I don't really see this team, showing up to have a good run. I can't envision a scenario where he can finish inside the top 10. I mean, I hope he does, but for DFS purposes, I'm just not really getting there. And you got Gibbs and Bowman. Both of them are going to be similar plays to me. I think Gibbs has been a little bit better as of late. Bowman was really strong to start the season. Obviously got hurt, hasn't been the same since coming back. But looking at just data points alone, both of them have similar practice times. Both of them kind of start right next to each other. So I like both of them for tournaments. Not really getting to Eric Jones. I just think he runs around where he starts, and I'd much rather just pay down for Carson Hocevar in the same equipment that starts a little bit further back and had better practice times. Suarez is another driver who also wrecked in practice, also going to a backup car. So like Chase Elliott, he is also starting from the rear of the field. He's also significantly cheaper than Chase Elliott too. Now, again, Chase Elliott's going to have more upside than Daniel Suarez, but it's a pretty big price savings discount. Even though Suarez hasn't been good, even though this is a backup car, it's going to be better than a 36th place, finish. Getting inside the top 20 is definitely doable. And same for Stenhouse too. I mean, Stenhouse didn't qualify well. Good practice times. You're going to need some place differential plays, some quote unquote value plays. If you're paying up for these top plays. So as you work your way through the middle of the slate, through the bottom of the slate, Gibbs, Bowman, Suarez, and Stenhouse for me are going to be the focuses of the 7K range. Not really getting the Briscoe or Almirola. Not really crazy about really anyone once you get past Stenhouse. I think it's a little bit of a grab bag, but Almirola and Briscoe just start a little bit too high. Cool to say AJ Allmendinger win. Pretty emotional victory for him too. So it's kind of telling. It's not really sure if he's going to be back in the Cup Series next year. There's some rumors going around he's going back to the Xfinity Series, so we'll see what happens there. But for DFS purposes, starts 22nd, probably runs around there. I'd much rather play McDowell or Hocevar. I think they both offer better finishing potential and they had better practice times. Hocevar has really turned this this Legacy Motor Club team around. It's been cool, to see the 42 car have some speed and see Eric Jones, kind of pick up on some of that speed too. So I don't mind him if you need someone down here. I also don't mind Ryan Preece. I don't love Ryan Preece, but we know some cars are going to wreck out. We know there's going to be some incidents. Some cars are going to have some troubles. You never know what it is. So I think Ryan Preece starting 32nd is pretty safe. I just think McDowell and Hocevar give you a little bit more of a finishing potential. They're not really getting to Dylan or Cindric. I think both of them either run where they're at or potentially drop back further in the field. And then pretty much with the 5K range too, it's just, I don't really have a strong feel about anyone down here. If you had to pick someone, kind of like the same reasons I'm picking Ryan Priest, like at least Priest had good practice times. Burton did not have good practice times, but looking at the equipment, looking at the driver, looking at where they start, looking at the price, Burton's probably the safest option down here. Again, I don't think he's going to finish that high, but as long as he can have a decent day and it allows you to fit in some of these other drivers we're high about, I think that's going to be the way to go. Haley, like AJ, probably runs around where he starts. Corey LaJoie was pretty slow. And then all these drivers were very slow. And I'm just not very, interested in them. So we'll see. I haven't really built any lines yet. Getting the video out a little bit earlier this week than I normally do. So, but we're getting to the end here. So thank you guys as always for just watching these videos, liking them, interacting with them. I know ownership or viewership on these goes down when NFL season hits. So still doing it, still having fun. Want to end the year strong. So best of luck today, and catch you on the next one.